The cracks in you are to let the light out. You're not devoid of light. You are pure light. The cracks are for you to come out. Everything is there for you to come out. So you don't need to go down this, I can't be in a relationship for another 30 years until I learn how to love myself. When you're doing real trauma healing therapy work, there are several moments, I call them aha moments or ouch moments or screaming into the abyss moments. In that moment, there's a bursting. That's the supernova. That's just telling you that you are made of light, that you are this infinite intelligence that is beyond all identities. And that's what we're always trying to feel when we're doing anything that is cathartic.
If you're concerned about where the world is going and you're concerned about how people are acting and you don't like the violence and everything you're seeing, people say, well, how can I be happy? How can I feed myself and be joyful when people around me are suffering? And here's my answer to that. If you don't do that, more people will suffer.
My guests today are healers Riz and Oriah Mirza. Riz is a powerful psychic, expert medium, master shaman, and an absolute virtuoso in the art of full trance channeling. Oriah is an intuitive empath, shaman, and trauma coach with a brilliant mind and unstoppable spirit. For more than 15 years, these twin flames have led mystical sacred earth retreats, channeling circles of light, ceremonial shamanic journeys, and powerful psychic services, all with a passionate mission to offer loving wisdom, infinite support, and true clarity about our soul path, transforming our current situation, and most importantly, how to surrender to our higher self and our highest potential so that we can live a fuller, deeper, more vibrant existence. We are shooting on location at the Ariel's Transportation Museum, so buckle up. We are in for a wild ride. Welcome to Soulgasm with Polo Rio Tate.
I want to welcome you all to the Soulgasm podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we pulled over. 'Cause that would have been something. Who would have been driving in the middle of this podcast?
You know what? I would go on a road trip with you guys anywhere. We're about to go for a wild ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am here with Riz and Oriah Mirza. We are actually sitting in the Ariel's Transportation Museum right now in a 1954 Oldsmobile Super 88 convertible, just cruising along. And we're about to.
Cool.
Spoiler alert, this is probably one of the most comfortable automobile back seats I've ever been in.
Right.
Oriah is chilling as our driver in the front.
Yeah.
I can literally feel in this place, this is an amazing museum, first of all, not just the legacy of your family, but it feels like the legacy of just America here and the world that spun around this city, you know, because all these cars came out of here, all the ingenuity. And I really believe that the engineers and the scientists and all the designers, they were really channeling information because these are classics, right? These will never be replicated. Really, they can never be, I want to say they're immortalized here, but you can never design another one that's going to have the same impact as these have, right? We can see that. So I'm all about it.
I'm so appreciative of you saying that. And Riz, obviously, being a master trance channel, a medium, a psychic, Oriah being an intuitive empath, we're going to be able to walk around and actually get the vibe of the space even more with each of these cars. And you can, being an empath and sensitive to energy ourselves, we all are, by the way. Some of us are just not aware of it. But you can feel that sort of kinetic brilliance that is involved in channeling this information.
Right.
And being clear enough to listen and to hear and to heed what your heart and soul calling is. And it sort of brings us into the point of this podcast for me is how to live an all-in, all-win life.
Right.
And to really get the most out of this life experience, how to feel more and do more and be the full expression of our true selves. So I am seeking that. And you to exemplify that in so many ways. And I cannot wait to get into the nitty gritty of how that is.
What you were talking about, when we're even talking about a place like this, or any place where there's innovation that has pushed beyond the limits, beyond the boundaries of what people are accepting at that time. So that is really, we all share this in common when we're doing something that is transformational, not only with like what we create, what we invent, but also what we begin to recreate or reinvent in ourselves, right? Think about it, because you have to be really brave to be yourself in this world.
And what does that mean to be really yourself? The self, capital S. And what does that mean? It's a lifelong journey of self-discovery to find out what that is.
So the theme of what we do and we've been doing for so many years, whether it's the channeling or doing retreats, leading people into amazing spaces, like whether it's the pyramids or we're in Sedona or we're in Mount Shasta, places that have a very strong energy, we take people to that. But the point of all of that work is really for people to understand that their sensitivity is actually their strength. Because think about this, if these designers who made these amazing cars weren't sensitive, they never would have been able to know, hey, this seat should kind of lean back a little bit, or we should make it this red color, or this is the material we need for this to run smoother. They had to be had to have their wits about them.
They have to have intuition as well. You have to be intuitive. So that's the buzzword right now in business and corporate America is all about, intuitive work and intuitive, thinking. But intuition has been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I mean, we are intrinsically psychic beings, aren't we?
Intuitively taking care of humans, like you just said, how would they know this is the color red? Not the other 12 shades of red, but this one is the color that would really do it. So you have to really be in tune with people and yourself.
Yeah, people overlook the fact that they think that, our sixth sense, like being a psychic medium, and what does that mean? And her being an intuitive empath, what that means is that we all have an internal kind of GPS system. We have a sixth sense, okay? Now that sixth sense, we're all born with it. It's just that some people have the capacity to make it very, very strong and become very psychic. So what we do when we teach people how to open their third eye, develop their sixth sense, all of these terms, it's really about, again, that emotional sensitivity that you have to allow that to become this very strong radar. Now, when people start to develop that radar, they start to say, but I feel too much. I'm always feeling bad vibes, or I can't be in this place. I can't go to that event. I can't be in public places.
It's almost as if they're walking around like a banana without a peel.
Exactly.
Feeling bruisable, feeling just so sensitive and empathic, being now that this word is in our lexicon.
But you got to be unpeeled for the fruit to be eaten, right? So, that's what life is doing. Life is peeling. We're all bananas that don't want to be peeled, apparently.
But most people live in a state of reactionary
Absolutely.
Psychosis, actually, instead of being in creation mode, which is a forward action, so they're receiving and they're sensitive and vulnerable, which is great, but then they stop there and they just feel that bruising of that unpeeled or that peeled banana instead of the forward action of creation where you're proactive in your life, making moves, putting things, out there in the world and telling people who you are. That feeling is a little bit more, you feel stronger.
We get used to that reactionary state and we start walling ourselves off and we start putting up all of this armor because of being bruisable and the fact that we can't really eat and enjoy the sweetness of life if we're not unpeeled, right? If we're not willing to be sensitive.
We're all such sensitive beings as humans that we get programmed really quick. So we do something and it hurts and we never want to do it again. And so we then think that we're being really adventurous by saying, hey, I'll try anything once. I teach my students, try everything 3 times, not just even twice. You could say try everything twice because the first time you try something new, you're dealing with so many preconceived notions that it's almost like you will block off even your taste buds from tasting something. Well, I don't like the way it looks, but I'll try it. So then you try it and you already have 50% of you that doesn't want to try it.
So for all those people that need the fine print, I always have to put the fine print. So not to try anything that's dangerous for you.
Of course.
You have to say that nowadays.
You actually have to, right?
People are like, well, Riz said I should just
jump off the building 3 times. Yes. Right. Okay.
Let me just try that.
Right. Of course not. But this is about getting past your programs. Now, as every person who wants to be better at what they do, you have to become more sensitive. Every piece of technology that is developed every single year, the only reason it's better, and everybody goes, hey, this iPhone's better this year, is because now they've made that piece of technology more sensitive. What are the components of that? Well, the particulars are that it should have a more sensitive camera. It should have a more sensitive microphone. It should have a more sensitive antenna to pick up a stronger signal. It should also be stronger, but it should be lighter. it should also have a better battery life. Now, we all want those things for ourselves. That's what I call inner technology. So human beings, we have this tendency, and I actually think it's innate, that we want to constantly be better. We are natural born creators. We can't stop. And when we're not creating is when we feel dead.
And that resistance of not creating is an actual resistance, because your body is in natural motion, because you're a part of the natural nature. So nature is always evolving. Your body is always evolving and wanting to evolve, including getting older. So if you resist and put the brakes on and not wanting to see what's in front of you, this is where people get into trouble. And this is where they don't see where they're going. They don't see where their path lies ahead. They're just winging it. You know, so you have to pay attention to what's happening in the now, what's happening to your body in the now, what's happening now. But your podcast is all about all in living, right? Living all in. But in order to do that, you also have to have your wits about you. And you have to be like it's like a pilot. You know, you have to be, you're going really fast in life and you're thinking fast and doing a lot of things. So if you're all in, you also have to be very aware of yourself.
I like all these navigational terms she's using, like, if you're a pilot, if you're winging it, put the brakes on. It's great. What else? If you want to lean back.
Isn't it brilliant? Mechanics. I like mechanical.
Our technology reflects really how we think. We want to move forward. All of the things in this car, you have to have a good rear view mirror, right?
How about the aerodynamics of love? How about the aerodynamics of integration of that?
The aerodynamics of love. Let's just let that land on me. The aerodynamics of love. So aerodynamic means you're moving through space
in a smooth
way with less resistance, less drag.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I always think of it, we have our inner self, our higher self, and we have our outer self, that persona we present to the world. And usually they're separate, right? And in this chasm lies all of the things that we're guilty of or ashamed of or somehow angry about, unprocessed emotion, which I want to talk about emotion too, because you two have a beautiful, beautiful perspective on emotion. But all of these things left unsaid and unprocessed. And if we have the courage to sort of turn on that light of awareness and look at this chasm, it then starts to dissipate. We just by turning our ear to it and our inner ear and our heart to it, and we start to close that gap between our inner self and our outer self, and then start moving at the speed of life,
right?
Which is that aerodynamics.
The aerodynamics of love and the speed of life. You got your next 2 books were already titled.
Yes, when you become aware of your inner dialogue, it is the beginning conversation for you to start living out in the real world. Because most people don't realize that they only have one toe or one foot in the real world. The rest of their world is insular, and it's hidden behind walls, doors, caverns, caves, and they think that that's normal. And maybe back in the day when that was okay, people can function like that on their farms, you know, with miles in between them. You know, I mean, maybe there's still that going on today, but we're more open with each other now because we have the internet, we have social media. So everybody is wanting to know more about each other. So tell me more about who you are. So now the younger generations are starting to come forward and everybody wants to share. Well, this is who I am, and this is what I like, and this is what I want to do, and where I'm at. And so now we're starting to share more about our inner dialogue.
Right, because as each generation goes by, I'm about to start when I was a kid, but seriously, when I was a kid, we didn't know what our favorite celebrities' breakfast was. We didn't know what their houses looked like. We imagined everything, okay? If once in a while a magazine article came out and there was a picture of your favorite musician or singer sitting on a chair in their house, you were trying to look in the background to see what was in the background of their kitchen. Now we know everything, and young people want to know everything. They want to bring that closer to them. And it is, it's a different era in that regard. But I wanted to say something about how do we do all this stuff that you guys are talking about. And I just want to share one of the perspectives that I've had lately. And this recently came through also a channeling that I did. And the channeling was, let's just take this car, for example. This vehicle, and wherever you guys are sitting at home, if you're sitting in your car or you're sitting in your house or you're holding your cell phone or your laptop. So whether it's this car or it's your cell phone or it's your laptop, this car is made of plants and rocks. So I'll show you how so. So let's go back, I don't know, several 100,000 years ago, and let's imagine in our mind the Neanderthal, and she's got her kids, and she's protecting the family, and she reaches her hand into the ground and she's holding some dirt, and on the other hand, she's holding some shrubs, and she's looking up at the moon, and she's saying to herself, perhaps, what is it like to be over there? You guys got that in your minds? Neanderthal holding some dust and rocks. On the other hand, there's some shrubs. And she's looking up at the full moon and wondering what it's like to go up there. She's just set in motion a chain of psychic energy that within a few 100,000 years, we are going to extract minerals from those rocks and make metal. We are going to allow those plants to die off and congeal, which will make oil, and then we'll make petroleum from that, and we'll have the fuel for the car. And plastics are also made from petroleum.
How about the crystal that makes our phone run?
So there's a crystal inside the microchip. So everything, this car is made of plants and rocks, guys. Your phone is made of plants and rocks. Your laptop is made of plants and rocks. There's nothing in it that is not plant-based. So the vision, let's go back to the vision now. And thank you for hearing me out on this, because it takes a little time, but I promise you the end is worth it. Okay, so there's a caveman holding the plants and rocks, looking up at the full moon, going, what is it like to be there? Cut to hundreds of thousands of years of, evolution, which is nothing in terms of cosmic time. 100,000 years is not much for a planet, okay? It's billions of years for planets. And we were extracting from the resources that are in our hands, made the metal, made the oil, made the plastic. From the resources in your hands currently, you can go to the moon. What do you have to be? You have to be super sensitive and intuitive to know how to extract from the resources you have right now. So whatever it is we have going on in our lives right now, if it looks like just plants and dust and rocks, which you think is nothing, over time, you're going to figure out how to turn that into launching yourself.
Hence, everything that we're seeing around us, right?
That's right. So think about Ari Olds, who is kind of I really feel is an iconic figure, because he was bringing forth all of this information, which is technology and design and changing the world to help us get where we needed to go. It's remarkable. And we just look at cars sometimes, go, that's a cool car. Oh, you have no idea what's going on, what it took to bring this here.
To the moon with what's in your hands.
What's in your hands. So you guys can go to the moons with what's in your hands right now, so to speak. Yeah. And that's it. You can let me off at the next exit.
All right. Thank you. I believe we've gotten everything. I mean, that is everything. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. Truly, this is the brilliance of what we just kind of started to get a glimpse of before we officially started rolling. But it's that everything is a metaphor, because everything we are creating as we go, right? We are creators by nature.
Yeah.
I know that you have said, and I don't know if it came from Red Eagle or if it came just from your intuition, that we're spiritual beings, not having a human experience, but having a spiritual experience.
Yes.
And I think it's so important. There is the kernel that just gives me rolling chills.
Colonel Sanders also is iconic.
Sanders, which gives me rolling chills like fried chicken. To really, the deep reverence that is inherent in that statement gives us permission and an invitation.
Let's say it again. Let's all say it again. We are not spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. Yes. Clearly, though, it's clearly we are. We're making it suspect to be human. That to be human means that we are inherently wrong. We are defective. That our most base natures are our true natures, which is not true. I do believe that everything is how you are using your energy. We live in a world of energy. We live in a reality of energy all the time. Every single molecule, every single atom that is in her hair, to this microphone, to your nail polish, to this engine of this car, looks exactly the same under a microscope. So there's a lot of magic happening to turn these molecules into different minerals and different compounds that we identify, but at the root, they are the same. So, and by the way, we don't even know what it is other than it's some form of energy. That's the best we can come up with. So fine, let's use what we can come up with, which is energy. We're constantly figuring out how to use energy. Here, this car is running on gasoline or diesel or whatever, and now we have electric vehicles. And then one day we're going to have maybe the vehicles that just run on air. We don't know. You could never predicted the CD, 300 years ago.
I want to go back to something that you said in terms of the rampant false belief that there is something inherently wrong with us. And I think it's perpetrated by a lot of institutions. Number one, probably religion in terms of sin. Some thinking somehow that you're born wrong or whatever.
Right.
And I just want to highlight the fact that every religion at its core, we're all trying to explain this human experience, right? We're all trying to explain what the hell is going on here.
Right.
So the fact that you're allowing us to look at this from a perspective of being spiritual beings having a spiritual experience, it gives us that ability to exhale, thinking there's nothing wrong in who we are.
So you want to know what my passion is?
I do. What is your passion, Riz Mirza? What lights you up?
Constantly flipping the script. That is actually, I realized, and I haven't even told you that. I've been thinking about that the last few days. But you know that I constantly say things that seem to be the opposite of what the popular belief is, like the spiritual beings thing is. Who?
Our
daughter.
Yeah. Our oldest. So our oldest daughter.
Yeah.
Not child, but she picked up on that years ago, and she told me.
She did?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so
She's been
that's really cool because can I give you more of my script flippings?
Hell yes.
Or flip scriptings? I don't know which is either. Okay,
script,
let's
script
flip the
the
script.
flip.
Okay, here's one. Ready? Here's the normal thing that we all hear and a lot of people adhere to. They'll wear this on T-shirts. You can't love anyone until you love yourself. And everybody goes, how can you argue with that? Oh, ask my parents. I can argue about anything. Okay, so here's what I say. No, we have all dearly loved others when we didn't really love ourselves. All of us have done that.
And we've also learned to love others when others have taught us how to love ourselves.
Yeah. When they loved us back, that's when we learned how to love ourselves. That there was something we felt worth loving when they loved us. And so you don't need to go down this, I can't be in a relationship for another 30 years until I learn how to love myself. Well, that's like, I don't know, so you're not going to ever dance to the music until you're a great dancer?
Address this because I just happened to finish writing my next book, it's called Worthy. How to live an all-in, all-in life. And which is why we're having these conversations, because there's clearly something still left to learn.
Okay.
But it's based on the premise that worthiness is not something we earn, it's something we are.
Yes.
And what you just said, Riz, flipping the script back and forth, it just, for me, it immediately brought up the fact that we're all one, not one and the same. If we're all one at our source, then of course you loving me without me really understanding my own worthiness is an aspect of me loving me, and it's teaching me how to love me.
Thank you.
Oh, the reciprocity in that,
yes,
the spiritual love reciprocity in that is fucking brilliant.
And it takes out the hellish experience of finding the partner, waiting for love to show up, constantly waiting for love to come in, always waiting. And the people that I know that experience that, they're in a personal hell. And there's no way around that. I'm not going to mince words about that. They are in a personal hell. And it's because they're following an ideology that's outdated. And that ideology is that you're supposed to love yourself. And then when you're good enough, then you attract somebody. But yes, I can see some truths in there sprinkled around, but it's not the full and final, like he's saying.
Yeah, because
you can teach yourself how to be a better person. You can teach yourself how to be more attractive and how to bring more to the table, so you can have somebody is attracted to you, of course. But what if you get out of your own way? What if you allow yourself to be loved by someone else and give that person a chance to love you? And then you in turn learn how to love yourself, learn how to love others. And so the reciprocity is there. So this is a bigger conversation than most people thought. So if I could change one thing, I would change the way people feel about love, honestly, like in relationship primarily, because I've had several marriages before Riz. I've watched so many of my friends and so many people who have gone through divorces and people in the dating scene and trying to find the right partner. And all I see is pain. All I see is struggle. Yeah. It's really painful to watch for me. And I really want to get in there with them. Like, you know, when you're in the kitchen and you get in there to help make that cake, I want to help them to understand that you have all the ingredients. You have everything you need. You got the oven there. You got all the ingredients. You can do this. It's allowing yourself to feel what others have to offer. And they stop themselves because they're scared. They judge. They say nobody's there for me. I can't match anybody. I can't match with anyone. And they're not giving themselves a chance. There's so much here. Could you imagine if all these people who are single and struggling and upset about being single, let's say fast forward, they get this approach and they change and then life changes for them, right? Just to say, how does the infrastructure of civilization just in our communities change when you have happier people? When people are happier in their relationships, people are happy because they found their partner or they found their person. Now, people who are very happy being single, that's wonderful, and I'm happy for them. But I'm talking about the people who are not happy being single.
Right, because there is let's keep flipping the script. Why not? Okay. That's my job. When the microphone comes this way, I go, now I can interject my script flipping. Okay. This is what I think about relationship. I have found that the word relationship, when you ask someone, so how's your relationship going? Here's our human instinct that kicks in. We don't realize we're doing this. It's automatic. Basically, if your partner is doing what you want, relationship's going good. How's yours? If they're not doing what you want, relationships, that's it. It's one or the other. But where's the relating? Because that to me sounds like the employer and employee relationship. Hey, how's Jason doing in sales? Not good. Why? Because he's not doing what you want. Or it's the warden and prisoner example. Are they behaving the way you like, warden? No, I'm about to put them in solitary. There's no relating. So relating would mean that you are actually interested in exploring how you're reacting to the other person. And of course, listen, I'm talking about non-abusive, non-physically abusive relationships. That's a whole nother story. So what we're talking about, guys, right now is just your normal day-to-day relationships. And it is about getting past how you want the other person to be.
Needing their behavior to change for you to feel better.
But then why did you get with them in the first place? Were they, I didn't know this about them. Well, now you're getting to know about them.
I didn't know this is how relationships go. I thought I can just direct the other person how to act in my play.
Yes, please entertain me.
This is my play. It's my stage, and you have entered now into my play. Right. So now behave exactly how you're supposed to behave.
And that's two people doing it.
Now, if both people are in agreement and they signed up for that, so the person coming in goes, yeah, I do want to be in your play. Please tell me exactly what to do and how to act. I love this.
There are people like that.
And that's a perfect combination. But if that's a minority. Most people want to come in more equal in their experience.
And even in that, I love this. And I love how you liken waiting to hell, like, or holding yourself back to a hellish thing.
Waiting is hell. You mean like at Starbucks?
Anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, lines equal hell. Exactly. A hellscape, a frozen hellscape. And
I just want to say, in the middle of all this, I'm like in the center of such a whirlpool of powerful feminine energy going on in this car right now. I just want to recognize that. I don't know if you guys can feel it where you are sitting, but you should get a whiff of this.
Two Wonder Women.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Bring it
So
on.
what you guys don't know here is that you're 5'11", Riz is 6'3", and I'm 5'10".
I don't look 6'3" because I'm sunk into the back of this cool car. But I'm taller, I swear.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. You know how many cars we feel getting in a clown car? Like, you cannot get in.
Not only can this car handle us, but it is a smooth ride.
It
I
is.
just want you all to know.
So, okay, one more script flipping.
Flip it up.
Here it goes.
Check yourself.
Before you wreck yourself. Okay. This is your checkity check self moment. Okay. It's called, I saw a meme. It was a beautiful meme. And it had said, listen, the cracks in you are there to let the light in. Beautiful. Like the soil, it dries, it cracks, and the sunshine goes in.
Ooh, I just got it. Just a preview of what is coming. Flip that.
So good.
Flip it. Flip it up.
The cracks in you are to let the light out. Yeah, you're not devoid of light. You are pure light. The cracks are for you to come out. Everything is there for you to come out.
So people think they're not full of light when things don't go their way. So if the guy drops them or the girl drops them or they got kicked out of school or their parents abandoned them and all these really horrible things that happen to people every day, they go, see right there, I'm not made of light. That's for other people. So those cracks are wonderful, but I'm just pure darkness. So I'm a void and nothing's going to happen in my life. Nothing is good. So the idea here is to discover and uncover the truth of our nature, which is, how do we know we're light? Well, you go back to when we were children, when we were babies. Does anybody dispute the fact that an infant and a child is not full of light?
Right.
Do you see darkness in a child? So if you need any
certainly not an infant or a toddler,
No.
you don't.
If you need any facts, if you need to have any proof that we came from light.
Yeah, you're right. It is there.
Okay. So by the time you are, I would say, going into 3 to 4 years old, that's when you start to create your identities and your ideas of like safety. And so there's ideas right there. You start to bring in that shadow experience because you may be in danger, you may not, you don't know, but you're starting to become aware of that. But before that, when you don't know and you're still fresh from the other side, you can see that you're just radiant, full of light. And so if anybody who's like living in darkness right now, or they feel that way, and they hear Riz say, let the light out, and they're like, what light? So go back. If you think that it doesn't exist or you never experienced that, you go back and you go back to the childhood, you go back to the baby. And that's when you're going to see the light. If you're in any confusion about that, let's keep it very simple.
Now, notice with all these therapies that people do to heal their traumas, when you're doing real trauma healing therapy work, there are several moments. I call them aha moments or ouch moments or screaming into the abyss moments. Some people do screaming therapy. Some people, there's always this letting out. Notice the words I'm using. There's a moment when you have your breakthrough where you are letting something out and letting something go. So that's why I say when the cracks in you are for you to come out, it's the letting out. And when we're doing that breakthrough, when we're like finally over what happened to us when we were kids or what happened to us when we were teenagers or yesterday, what happens is in that moment, there's a bursting. That's the supernova. That's just telling you that you are made of light, that you are this infinite intelligence that is beyond all identities. And that's what we're always trying to feel when we're doing anything that is cathartic, or I like to say it's religious. I think that we're very religious beings, and I don't mean religion. I feel that music becomes our religion, or yoga becomes our religion, or being angry becomes our religion. There's something that starts to set the tone of how we see things. Thinking everything is sus, that becomes your religion. That's how you see everything.
Your belief in practice, right? A religion, a belief in practice.
Right.
So depending on what you believe. Oh my God, I love the fact too, because this plays in beautifully to what you were talking about the hellscape of waiting, not putting yourself out there. I'm single at the moment. I get it. Like I totally understand that, not sort of wanting to hold yourself back from the world. And yet you watch all of these couples and you're like, you have to take a step out to be willing to crack your heart open, because you're going to feel pain and you're going to feel the full range of human emotion. Yeah. But through those cracks is where you're going to rediscover your light.
That's correct.
It's that over and over again. It's that when and right. It's that when and then.
It's electric. That feeling is electric.
I have rolling chills.
It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie.
Oh my God. Turn it up, DJ.
So, I want to talk about this. A lot of my experiences are from the readings that I do and work with people, because I'm posed with a lot of questions that have to do with, when is my soulmate going to come? When is my twin flame going to show up? Okay. Yes. So I say, first of all, are you sure you want a twin flame? Wouldn't you just like a nice, fun, happy, easygoing soulmate? Yeah, we both feel the same way. But it's like, wouldn't you just like a nice, fun, day-to-day, easygoing soulmate? Why are you asking for a twin flame? It's a lot of work.
Because we're here to live an all win life, Riz.
I think and you've said it, usually it's your last lifetime when you have a twin flame.
Yeah, it is, because this is where you're going to just like go out with a bang. You're just really going to you're seeing life in technicolor, because, some people are not going to meet their twin flames in this lifetime, right? Which is fine. They could still go out with a bang and still have a full out life. But when you do bring in your twin flame to the mix, it just amplifies. The heat just goes up on the stove, and it's in all areas. But you have to be able to handle that. You have to be able to handle that.
So what about this idea that we have temporary happiness a lot of the time as human beings, even for things that we want? And you talked about the waiting game. Okay, here's an example for everyone. If you're single, try this on for size. If you're not, just remember when you were single. Okay, so you tonight, you say to yourself, I want to call in this soulmate. And then after you watch this podcast, you are driving in your car and you stop to get gas, and you're at the gas station pumping gas, and this other car pulls up to you, and there in the light of the gas station with the little beam of light coming down is this person that completely captures you, your soul and your attention. And there's this knowing that you have, okay? And then you start talking, and then you, I don't know, go hang out at a diner all night, and it's like, wow, what a great night, and you have a great good night kiss, and then bye, and then it just becomes this instantaneous acceleration of moving forward, and that momentum goes, right? And you're having the best time. You can't even believe this whirlwind you're caught up in. Got the picture? I don't need to go on further in that.
I wish you
I'll
would.
say this.
I'm just
Okay.
viscerally
Okay, so you're
imagining this. I'd
there.
like to know the gas station
Okay.
where I can find this magical bow. Anyway.
Okay. So this is now you're at the point where you go, this is wonderful. And you're spending every moment together. At what point, and be really real with yourself, everyone, be really real with yourself. At what point do you start wondering where this is going? Is this real? Is this real? Okay. 3, what are they thinking? The first 10 days, she texted me every hour. Now she texted me every 2 hours. Uh-oh. Let me call my friend.
It's operation, isn't it? Standard operation.
SOP, standard operating procedure.
Right. So, but let's say where does the energy start to drop? Because you need to know what's happening. Now you're going to analyze everything. So the first 2 weeks were great, and now you're falling in love. And now it just becomes your whole mind, your consciousness shifts from enjoying something to analyzing every single move. Well, that was a good date. Let's see where the next phone call comes. And this happens with people all the time. And
it feels like your talons start to come out, and that attachment, that issue of attachment starts to come in. And you're just like trying to just really control and make sure nobody leaves me. And for the love of God, don't abandon me.
That's why it's a ride. And that's why the old saying, it's an old school saying, but I'm going to say it. All's fair in love and war. What do they mean by that? They just meant it's a wild ride. Expect that you're going to get hurt repeatedly. And you're also going to have some victories, whatever you call a victory. And that's just the name of the game. And if you're not ready for this, if you don't believe in this, I'll give another example. I gave a reading to a woman one time, and she had asked me in the reading, when am I going to be with the one, Riz? And she goes, I really want to know. If you don't know, you don't get it psychically, it's okay. Sometimes I do dates, names, and places and things. I get very specific in my readings.
Never going to forget that, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
We'll circle that back to that later.
And sometimes it's more philosophical, the message psychically. All right. But she goes, can you just tune in? And I said, let me tune in and let me see. And I got an answer. And I really saw the guy really clearly. I saw when it was going to happen. And it was like in about 8.5 years. She was like 33. She was like, oh, God. I said, yeah, it's about 8.5 years. And then I saw something else. I saw 2 marriages that ended in divorce before that person coming in. And I had to now decide for myself as a psychic, like, do I share this information? Because now she's like, you know what? I could do another 8 years. You know, I'm going to go back to school and I'll be good. Will I date? Oh yeah, you'll date. Okay, that's cool. I'll have some flings or whatever. But I said, well, I'm going to tell you something. Hypothetically, you don't need to put all your chips on a psychic reading with me, but I'm just going to tell you, I see 2 divorces between now and then. And I see 2 really severe child custody battle cases that you're going to go through. And she's like, is that hypothetical or is that a real psychic message? I said, I don't know. I just feel like I need to tell you this. And I feel we need to launch our reading into a more philosophical discussion based on what I'm feeling as a psychic. So let's just explore. There's no danger here. And we started to explore it. And it turned out that she was not in, that she didn't want to go through the 2 marriages and have child custody case battles. And I said, look, but when you're 41, you're going to be ready and he's going to be amazing and it's going to be for the rest of your life. And she said, I just can't do that. And a part of me, I had a big brother her at that moment. I said, well, then you're not in it to win it. And maybe this just isn't for you. Is it possible that's just not for you? The game of love is just not for you. That's what I think it's going to require for you. And I think that it's not a punishment from the universe. I think that you have to go through these experiences to be seasoned, to be taken apart in a way that even I can't take you apart, or you won't let me take you apart as your shaman. So life is going to be your shaman. It's going to be a lot harder because you're going to struggle and fight it more rather than understand the way you were saying about metaphors, understanding the metaphor for what this is. So this is where I feel the base of really good psychic mediumship work, channeling, intuitive empathic work, and shamanism is for you to not fear life and to understand that everything is for you, right? Of course, we go back to it's for you, it's not happening to you. And you have to reprogram yourself to really make that the foundation of your existence.
This speaks so beautifully to the intimate relationship we have. In fact, the primary relationship that we have between our human self and our soul. Like that is our primary relationship our source.
Our human self and our soul as like the perspectives we have. You mean like your earthly perspective as opposed to you are a soul and surrendering to that massiveness.
So
is that what you mean?
In other words, the primary relationship being mirrored in all relationships that we have is really our pure consciousness routed through the satellite of our soul coming down into this earthly, human existence or whatever holograph, if you want to think of it that way. That relationship, because in that space, for you to get information like that, is it so much easier to digest a little bit and be like, you know what? My soul's got this on lock. We agreed to come in with this constellation of attributes, this time and space, through these parents. All of those things that
it takes a lot to accept that, though. You have to have it kind of beaten out of you, right? You have to have your resistance, in a sense, metaphorically beaten out of you, right?
Yes.
That life is having all these experiences that you're resisting, and it cracks you open.
And don't worry, it will. Life as your shaman will beat the ever-living shite out of you at times. And at the same time, if we lose perspective that this is happening for us, that we are creators, allowing pure creation to create through us, if we don't have that, if we lose sight of that, then it feels like a hellscape in terms of being alone and lonely.
My hellscape was before I met Riz. I was pretty much summing up my whole life path with my divorces under my belt, all the custody issues that I went through, like your client, everything I experienced. I wrapped it up to like, well, I guess I failed this life, right? This is just like, I'm now, 36. And I said, I think I took a left somewhere and I was supposed to take a right. I had all these plans and all this amazing things that were supposed to happen. And then I just felt like I ran out of steam. I didn't have anything left in me. My tires had no tread, right? And so when I met Riz, he came from, for me, I saw him as coming from another planet. I mean, I didn't even recognize him as a human being. I didn't understand what I was looking at or listening to, but he walks into my life and he says, do you know it could be really fun? And I'm like, no, it's not going to be really fun. Here's the list of reasons why this is ongoing in my life. I'm not going to have fun. No, I'm not going back to my inner child. I'm not doing any of that because I'm destroyed, dismantled, and demolished. So it's not going to happen. What you're seeing in front of you is a shell with 1% interest and staying on this planet. So what do you have to offer me? That was my opening line.
That was date number 1.
Well, Riz,
that's what happens when you have a twin flame connection.
Riz saw through all of it and saw this kid in the back.
And I was just like, all I asked you was if you wanted extra butter on the popcorn. But,
so that would be
but we can talk about that later. Yeah.
So I said, okay, listen, this 1% left in me, which hopefully people will take this away, that they can actually do this in life with anything and anyone that offers this. So, and it happens all the time. People get offered this. So, and they just don't see it or take it. So Riz gave me this opportunity to take, and I had 1% left in me of a flickering flame that was alive to live a life, whatever that life was. Everything was dismal, so I didn't know what life I could possibly have. So he said, I'm going to show you, if you'll let me, I'll show you how you can feel like young again, feel good again, feel like a kid again, feel like yourself again. Go back and find that girl that you left behind. And I said, good luck. Good luck on that one.
Yeah, she was like, she's dead. I mean, I don't know what you think you're going to do. I mean, I like you and this is great, but that's not going to happen.
I had been through too much sexual violence, domestic violence, child care, custody, parental alienation, loss, parents dying, things like this. I had been through so much living in the inner city, being through so much violence. And I was tapped out and just finished. I was 36 years old, 37, finished. And when he said this to me, I remember the conversation I had in my mind. And he didn't, in just one date, in one sitting, he said all that. It was just over a few weeks. But I said to myself in the back of my mind, I said, you know what? What do I have to lose here? I have 1% of me left open for business. I have an offer and an opportunity. Look, he's also good looking. That doesn't help. That doesn't hurt. So I was like, okay.
Or help.
So I said, okay, let me just take this opportunity and see if there's a little bit more oxygen here left in me that I could maybe do this, what he's talking about. So I started doing journeys. I started doing psilocybin journeys. And that's how I started to, first of all, it was like brick layers of cement that I had buried myself in a tomb. So that started coming off.
And we're talking about a time when no one was doing plant medicine ceremonies. Now you go to Netflix, watch Fantastic Fungi, watch How to Change Your Mind, episode 2 on Netflix. Those are really well thought out, well crafted documentaries that are talking about this incredible phenomenon that's sweeping the world in terms of emotional and mental health. We're seeing PTSD, depression, anxiety, OCD, all sorts of conditions that seemed irreversible unless people were on very strong meds. Now, through the power of nature, ancient shamanic practices, and science is behind this. We're now at legislation in the Senate level about how these shamanic plant medicines from ayahuasca to psilocybin can heal not only the physical brain, but the emotional mind, right? The brain and the mind are two separate things, right? The brain is residing in the skull. The mind resides God knows where. So we're seeing this, and I have been leading for many, many years. And I said to her, you are suffering from PTSD. I have a way that I think will cure you. And I use the words cure, and I've led over 2,000 ceremonies in my life. So she trusted me. And
so it was like a full series of shamanic experiences and journeys. So it wasn't just like one little dose, one little time. It was all fixed. No, it was a consistent, maintenance. And
channeling, sound healing.
And I did it every week, every couple of weeks, and then every month. And I had severe PTSD, so I had to. And so I spent a lot of time deeply laughing and deeply crying and deeply being in silence, and then repeat that. And I just kept doing that to reactivate myself back from the dead.
You ever see Everything Everywhere All at Once, that film? It was like that.
Thank you for bringing this up, because it is sometimes when we are lying at the dark and jagged at rock bottom, that is the only time when we allow ourselves to actually look up.
For real.
Find the light. And I too have experienced much of what you've experienced. And there is a time when you don't think that you want to go on. And that is when you actually release resistance. And you let this beautiful light into your life to reflect your light. And not only that, but to see that spark of a pilot light that is almost extinguished in you and fan the flames and the embers of your passion and your inner light, so that you...
Well, let me finish by holding it a little bit so I can manage when I'm done. So for a second. Yes. So I want to say that yes to everything you just said. And these journeys, when I finally got to this place within myself where I felt healed and I could function and go on in life. And I was like recalibrated. Like I was like set my odometer back. That's what it felt like really starting over. And when that happened, I remember I turned to Riz and I said, I want to tell everyone about this. And I have. And so now I've led hundreds of shamanic journeys myself as a shaman next to Riz. We've filmed, I don't know how many episodes of our podcast. We have 3 podcasts now, and we're, over 160,000 subscribers in just like 8 months. Yeah. And it's just that we're like opening the doors and letting people know when you're all in. So all you need is that little flame, right? You just need that little flicker. You just need that 1%. Even if you're in pitch darkness, if you just look up and you just see that one little sparkle, that's all you need. And that light that's inside of you that Riz is talking about gets reignited. So it's just covered right now. It's just in a different atmosphere. It doesn't have to stay that way, And, I want to say one for the road because I can't get enough of these. I can't get enough. I can't get enough. I cannot get enough.
If you're spinning your wheels.
I can't get enough. I have to say it. Okay, but I have one more for the road. If you're concerned about where the world is going and you're concerned about how people are acting and you don't like the violence and everything you're seeing, people say, well, how can I be happy? How can I feed myself and be joyful when people around me are suffering? And here's my answer to that. If you don't do that, more people will suffer. So here's what happens when you stop suffering. You tell other people you don't have to suffer either. And here's how you help the next person and the next person and the next person and the next person and the next person. If you let darkness infiltrate and sit in it and go, well, everybody's going to hell, so I guess we'll just all go together. That's one way of doing it. Or you can just say, how about we all start feeding ourselves, taking care of ourselves, loving ourselves, giving to ourselves, teaching our friends, family, neighbors how to do that, showing each other how to do that, passing the torch, passing the flame. Then what happens? Groups, communities grow. Then hopefully worldwide. Will we be here to the end to see it? We'll probably be long gone before we have, full utopia, full ground zero, where everybody turns the corner.
How about...
I wanted to say all that.
No, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for looking in the rearview mirror for that story. Anyway, but
how you guys can stand all of these references, I don't know.
But that stand doesn't have a car reference.
Oh.
How you guys can corner all these references.
I've run out of gas on that topic.
That's right.
I want to just highlight the fact that hell yes to everything that you just said. And what if our level of consciousness and our level of compassion and our capability of actually expressing that is our contribution to this world?
And what if it's only in the terms of singing, dancing, cooking, art?
Amen.
It doesn't have to be with a microphone. It doesn't have to. You could be making pottery.
Some of the best healers I ever met, or what I felt were healers, were just someone who worked in a store and just always said, and remembered my name and said, how's it going, Frank? And I was like, Riz. They're like, oh, right, Riz. No. I go, those little moments are so great where people have humor and the spontaneity of life. So I'm always cracking jokes because I feel like everyone wants to laugh, actually. They actually
How about
really want to laugh.
enlightenment being lighten up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what's at the end of a very tight, dark rope? It cracks off eventually because it's like it'll break because hard rubber or darkness or any kind of like anything constrictive will eventually break. And at the end of that is where humor comes in. That's where you have fun. I think the graduates of the human race, like all of us, the graduates are the ones that are laughing. The graduates are the ones that got it because you went through so much hell and you went through so much pain and you've been so hanging out to dry and the crows eating you alive. You just have just bones and you have nothing, but then you start laughing. And that's the whole full circle.
When you are literally at the end of your rope.
You're at the end of your rope. And when you start laughing about the insanity of it all and the beauty of it all, and it's all one big, insane, beautiful joke, story, life, all of the above, when you start laughing and getting it and allowing yourself to just let it go and laugh out loud. You can laugh out loud in your house by yourself, crack your jokes with your cat. It doesn't matter. But when you start really getting, some people think, oh, I'm going crazy. I'm going mad. Go mad. You need to let go. You need to go mad. Go mad and then keep center keep right. Don't, go off the freeway, stay in your lanes, right? But let yourself come out. Let yourself have some freedom. And that's, I think, what laughter is. I think laughter is the final stages of finally getting it, what life is.
Have you noticed, like, the most popular Buddha statue that sells is the one where he's laughing?
I did comedy for 17 years in New York City.
Did you really?
Hell yes. That is my religion. Because
she is really funny.
But truly, that I 100% agree with you. Oh my God.
Yeah. Because there's nothing else left.
Think of the term soulgasm, for lack of a better term, whatever. But think of that, like,
a good term.
That ecstatic joy when you were in full and complete alignment, and you look at the absurdity of this life experience.
And then you breathe after. You're like, why was I so crazy before this soulgasm? Like, now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm expressing my soul, and now I realize that I made up a lot of the difficulty. Whew. This is awesome.
I love you dearly. And
we love you too.
Dearly.
Are we going to go through the drive-through now?
Yeah, let's go get some food.
All right, everybody, let's go. Start it up.
Awesome. Woo!
Ready?
Let's start it up.
Awesome.